Welcome to Spies and Spymasters Happy Hour, the Morten Storm edition. We're coming to you from the International Spy Museum in Washington, D.C. remotely. We're going to have an amazing talk tonight. Vince Houghton, our historian curator and star of many of our shows, is going to be talking about Morten Storm, a double agent who helped the CIA track terrorist Anwar al Alawki. But before we go over to Morten's story from Vince, we're going to see our friend Reese at Stoney's on P Street. And Reese is whipping up a fabulous cocktail for us tonight. Can you tell us about it?
Hey guys, how y'all doing today? So today we're going to be making a dark and stormy.
Wait, isn't it a dark and Morten Stormy?
Oh, sure. Yes, Morten Stormy it is. So first we're going to start with put your ice. We're going to use dark rum. My choice is Gosling's. So we're actually going to do 2 ounces of dark rum. Yes.
Oh my God. I want a real one when this is over.
Oh, it's not. 3 ounces of ginger beer. My choice of ginger beer is actually something called Barrett's. It's actually a little bit spicier than your normal ginger beer, which I actually like, especially when it comes to rum. And then we're going to even it out with a 1/2 ounce of lime juice. Just shake it up.
It does sound great. Oh my God.
It's like tons of booze and then a little bit of lime juice. That's nice.
Just a little, you know, top it off, nothing fancy.
Oh, it looks so good.
Just a little bit of ice though. That's the thing with the dark and stormy. You want to fill your glass 3/4 with alcohol and 1/4 of ice. That's it. That's it.
Oh my gosh. Cheers. Cheers, Reese. Cheers. Cheers, Vince.
Yes.
Thanks. Stoney's is open for carryout right now.
Yes,
So
we're still open from 12 to 10, Monday through Saturday. 202-234-1818 is our phone number, or you can go to stoniesdc.com.
Excellent. Thank you. And yeah, bye. Thanks, Reese. We'll see you soon. So without further ado, Vince Houghton and the story of Morten Storm.
So we're going to be talking today about my good friend, Morten Storm. He is someone who, there's just a fascinating story behind this guy. This is someone we all have really gotten to learn and love about at the Spy Museum, just because it's extraordinary personality. And you've been to some of these, so the audience is somewhat the same. Several of our happy hours in the past, and we've had wonderful happy hours where Amanda's talked about Mata Hari, where Shauna's talked about Dmitry Bishilotov and Hannah about animals, and we're gonna have a great one with Alexis next week. But here's where I really come in, and there's no doubter that I was gonna be the presenter tonight, because just Morten is my guy. I mean, like, there's really no one on the planet that possibly knows this man better than I do. I just, no one else has had a beer with Morten Storm before. I mean, is anyone out there possibly be able to say more than I can about Morten Storm?
Excuse me?
Someone interrupting my talk? Who's interrupting my?
The one better. I think I know Morten Storm better than you.
You think you know more? Who can possibly think they know Morten better than I do?
Agent Storm himself.
Well, I can't see anything. All I hear is a voice. This is kind of a weird voice. Whoever you are, hit your camera so we can actually see who we're. Oh,
Skull.
Hey, there's Morten Storm, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Not the greatest surprise, probably saw that coming, but we had a little bit of fun with it. Morten is joining us from a location on Mars somewhere. He certainly can't tell you where he's going to be. And we both decided to let everyone know that the camera adds about 60 pounds. So Morten's been spending his time running marathons.
It's scientific proven.
Yes. Morten's been spending his time running marathons in quarantine. It's just camera. This is just a bad camera angle. So
my guests are laughing at you. Have fun.
So I don't know if you can see the PowerPoint or not, Morten. The audience out there is going to start seeing pictures of you as a kid, and you are absolutely adorable as a young person. And so my first question for you is, what the hell happened? Where did you go wrong? Like, at what point did you break bad? I'm being serious. Can you talk a little bit about your youth? Because your youth, I think a lot of people can identify with that, because most of us had bumps and bruises along the way to who we are today, and have overcome them to get to where we are. And you are the success story for that. Can you talk a little bit about your early life?
Well, for those who haven't read the book or heard about my story, I grew up in a small town called Korsør in Denmark. It's a small fishing town. I started really with a bad, not a good, start in life, with a bad stepfather, and there was a lot of violence, and so these kind of frustrations obviously affected me. This instability in my life, and obviously I was always seeking for adventures, and I had loads of adrenaline. I think today you call it ADHD. That time we just call it being a naughty boy. So I was seeking out to do the different things. As I said, very adventurous, and wow, I can't believe that I ended here, and I can't believe I'm talking to you guys as being a former double agent for 4 intelligence services, and I've done what I did. But anyhow, so during my life, I was seeking out always also justice for those who were weak. So we had a lot of foreigners who came from Iran and Palestine and Turkey, and they had Muslim background, and somehow I fell into their customs because they had really good family ties. That was something I was lacking. I was missing this, identity and somewhere to belong. But I also belong to my local boxing club, and I belong to my soccer team or football club in what we call in Europe. So my life full of sports, just full of action, and unfortunately, I took some wrong turns, but they turned out to be life-saving for many other people later on. So I don't really regret that much from that time.
So Morten, what I have on the screen right now is a picture of the Korsør Library. And this is a very important place in your life. And I know when we were together, you pointed it out to me, and it was kind of one of those moments where it's kind of like an origin story, right? So can you talk a little bit about what happened to you in this library, how it changed your life?
That library saved my life. It's I was kicked out from 5 schools, if you'd like put all together, and I was so naughty. I hate reading, and I just hated books. They were had allergies to books. But somehow I went to this library, as you see on the picture, and I picked up first of all, I picked up the Quran. Because of my friends, I thought maybe Islam was the answer to me, because they always used to tell me, we believe in Jesus, we believe in Moses, God is one. So that appeals to me, it appealed. And at that very time, I was about 21 years old, and I was how can I say? I was in Bandidos. I was in this biker club called Bandidos, and we had some rivals, so we had some conflict with other people, and I was getting tired of that lifestyle and was really asking to find a way out of this in a good way. I didn't want to crash with my friends, and I didn't want to betray my friends, but at the same time, I needed to get out of this. So I picked up the Quran, and I started reading it, and I was like, the Danish translation at that time, it wasn't really good. And I just couldn't read it. It was too complicated for me. It didn't make any sense. So I picked up the life of Prophet Muhammad instead, the biography, the life of Prophet Muhammad. And when I read that, I couldn't stop reading it. I read from I was sitting the whole day in the library, from page 1 to 100 and something. I just read it all. I couldn't stop. And I was a guy who used to hate reading. So at that moment when I left the library, when the door was closing behind me, I knew I was a Muslim, but I just didn't know what to do. I just knew I was a changed man.
And that's where things can get somewhat dangerous, and it kind of they did for you, because at one hand you could have found a moderate mosque, you could have found some people who practice nonviolent Islam. Instead, you kind of got pushed into the more extremist side, and you know that was where your life turned out.
You know, Vince, that's true, and that's probably also because of the personality I used to have, and you know, seeking these adventures and adrenaline, and always seeking a cause to fight for, a justified cause to fight for. And so when I converted, obviously I spoke to my friends in Denmark about my thoughts about Islam, and then I converted. They helped me to convert, and then I later on I moved with a Danish convert to United Kingdom, and I stayed there for a few months, and then I met as an imam in Regent Park Mosque, Mahmoud al-Tayyib, and he sent me to Yemen. I was just, you know, 21 years old, and you know, I didn't really know much about Islam, but I thought, well, my adventure is me. My fiancée, she left me, and I had nothing to lose, and you know, I wanted to learn the language of, you know, of the Quran and of the Islam, and also I wanted to learn about Islam and see the culture. So I went to Yemen, and by the way, I thought Yemen was Oman. So when I landed in Sana'a, I was like shocked. I had a culture shock. It was, but people were nice.
So while you were meeting people, while you were going through your training in Islam, you did come across some people who would later become, I guess, famous is the wrong word, infamous, notorious, and two of them are on the screen right now, people that you met very early on in your journey with Islam.
Yeah, well, that's true. But before I met them after I went my first trip to Yemen. So I met these ones in Brixton, and also in al-Muntada al-Islamiyah in London, the Islamic Foundation, Islamic organization. So to the left of the screen, you will see what's his name?
Zachary Smasawi is on the left. Yeah.
Al-Musawi,
Yeah.
and Richard Reed.
Richard Reed, yeah.
So these people used to pray in also region in the Brixton Mosque and also in al-Muntada Islamiyah. And I went to al-Musawi's house in the flat in London. He used to rent in south of London. And of course, at that time, Chechnya was a topic. I believe also we talked about you know, the war in Sudan, and also in Indonesia around that time, yeah, 2000. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and Musawi is known as the 20th hijacker.
I have to tell the people because otherwise, so Morten Storm, when in that library, I was trying to run away from that person I was trying to console myself, trying to forgive myself for the things I have done and become a better person. So when I went to Yemen, I went to study in something called at the Match. It's one of the most hardcore or fundamentalist places to study, you know, hadith and you know, all the science of hadith. And so my foundation was built there, and I became a fundamentalist, a Salafi. And that person I was trying to run away from became much worse. I just didn't understand that for 10 years. So when I returned back to United Kingdom from Yemen after 9 months, I was a very hateful person. I was not that loving, caring person I thought I would be when I converted to Islam.
Right. Well, so one of the main characters of our conversation, other than you, of course, is this man, Anwar al Alawki, who you had a very close relationship with, both while you were a fundamentalist Muslim, but also while you were working for Western intelligence. It was a different relationship at different times. But can you talk a little bit about Awlaki as a person? Because I think people so quickly look at these guys and think that they're so different than us, that they're so foreign and over there. And Awlaki was an American, right? He was just like you and me, except he went off in a different direction.
Yeah. He used to love camping, fishing. He talked about camping and fishing to me. We spoke a lot about camping equipment and all this kind of stuff because he liked the outdoors from the back in the States, and that was something that he missed. He obviously also liked blonde women, but I think we're going to get to that later on. But Anwar was promoting peace at the White House after 9/11. He condemned the attacks and condemned al-Qaeda and also Taliban. Later on, he changed his views because of more studies and I don't know what else. But he was actually joking like everyone else, except we don't joke about religions and we don't joke about anything from Islam. But there was like superficial jokes and all that. Yeah.
And I mean, I've read a lot of the emails between the two of you in your conversations, and they're written in slang. They've got emoticon happy faces. They've got it really reads like two buddies email, like how I email people. It's very normal, and that's what actually is very shocking to me. And these are, that the fact is he was born in the United States. He was the imam of a mosque actually right outside of Washington, D.C., and that's where he talks about 9/11 here. And then either something broke bad and he went full off the reservation, or he always felt that way. Do you have any insight into whether or not he was always a fundamentalist, or there's something that changed him?
You know what, Vince? I think the more he got engaged in studies, he became more and more fundamentalist. He got more and more detached from Westerners, and I don't know. I think the FBI had some case on him regarding prostitutes, and I think that could have been the turn point. Where he possible have been embarrassed, and instead of getting this embarrassment, he probably turned it around to anger, and then to show everyone else that he was a brave holy warrior, mujahid, and so on. I think, but the man had the knowledge. He was a scholar, and he had so much influence on people around the world. Even today, people are listening to his lectures, and
right.
In fact, most of the people, the non-Arabic speakers who went to fight with ISIS, they have all listened to his lectures. But also those who made terrorist attacks in France, on even the Boston ones, but also in France, Charlie Hebdo, they even mentioned that this was revenge because of the drawings of Prophet Muhammad and also the killing of Anwar al Alawki. So it's for me to be involved with these kind of things. It's also a bit hard because I couldn't, I didn't, I entered this to create peace, to help people to be killed, and having to also be responsible taking other people's life, and especially those who I used to know. It was very, very difficult and hard for me to do, and sometimes still haunt me. Yeah.
So I put this email up. This is a representative of what I was talking about. You ask him if you need to bring him anything and all this, and then his response to you is, I wear an extra large in shirts. Forget about shoes since I only use sandals. Cheese and chocolates, please. Smiley face. Right. Again, this is kind of how we talk. So I want to kind of walk you through the process. We're going to skip a lot because people should go get the book if they want the full story. And I want to run into when you had a crisis of faith. And this is when you were going to go to Somalia, and it turned out you couldn't. And then lead us up to the next slide, is what you'll see in a second what the next slide is. But take us up to that point.
Yeah. So, wow. I'm not religious. I don't believe in God, but I think there is something up there who actually protected me. I was studying in Yemen in 2005 and 6, and I was actually on my way to Somalia, but because my finance was too weak, I needed to go back to Denmark to work and earn money so I could go to migrate to Somalia to join up with the Islamic courts at that time, who also, many of them are known today as Al-Shabaab. It's just crazy. I had my tickets ready when I finally was ready with the money and finance. I had the tickets ready. I said goodbye. I used to have two wives. I was married to a Yemeni and to a Moroccan. I said goodbye to all my network, and I was so happy to go and fight because that was my, my fast track to paradise if I was getting killed. But I didn't go with the purpose of getting killed, but I went there to serve Allah, in fighting. But I was so lucky. I went to this army store in Denmark, and I bought Yeah, I bought shoes, army boots for my friends in Somalia, even for myself. I bought military clothes, and then on my way back over the bridge from this Sealand, from where Copenhagen is, going back to my town, to where I used to stay at that time, I had a phone call from this Abdul Rani, a Somali imam from Denmark, where he was in Mogadishu. He said, Murad, Abu Usama, we lost the airport. You cannot come. And I was just about to go a few days later, and I couldn't believe it. I got so angry. I got so disappointed. It was like, if you can imagine, those who know soccer, if you go into the World Cup final and you walk in the tunnel and before you enter this huge stadium, the coach gonna come and take you on the shoulder and say, not you this time. I have another one to play in your space. I was so disappointed. So when I came home, I threw my bag and I asked my wife. She don't know anything about this, so she don't know what was in my head. I told her, please make coffee. I want to read some. So I googled contradictions in the Quran. I have never questioned Islam, never, especially not the Quran, because I was always told that the Quran is perfect. There is no contradictions, and there's even a verse to say, indeed, verily, if you find any contradictions in this book, it will not be from me, i.e., the book will be man-made. So it was a challenge, and it was a challenge I used to represent in front of Christians in the Speaker's Corner and other places where I used to propagate Islam. I converted many people to Islam, especially Christians, because I used, oh, look, there's contradiction in the Bible, but not in the Quran, because I was so arrogant to believe there was no contradictions. But anyway, this time I looked in the mirror, I asked myself, are there any contradictions in the Quran? I Googled it. And as you see on this website, as you see on this PowerPoint here, it's just crazy. I just found the contradictions. I was shocked. It took me 2 weeks. I read them. I studied them all in 2 weeks. And it just totally wiped away my faith, and it saved my life. It made me a better person.
So the next slide, as people will see, is wonderfully, I love Europe because they translate everything in English for us. But this is an organization called the PET, which is the Danish version in many respects of CIA. And they had already talked to you up this point. You knew who they were already, even before you read about the contradictions of the Quran. But now you were much more willing to listen to them at that point.
Well, one of them, I had a previous meeting with them, actually a meeting where they told me I could travel to Somalia and fight. It was okay. One of them, he left Klang, he called himself Klang. He left a card with me, and I picked up the card. When I finally realized that Islam was man-made, as many other religions are, I said, I can't continue like this, and I can't, it's evil, you know, I can't kill people because they don't believe the same as me. Why should I hate them? But now I have to get killed myself because I have chosen to leave Islam out of my free choice and based upon knowledge. Anyway, so I picked up this business card and I rang it and I said, hello, Clark, this is Morten Storm. And he was a bit silent in the phone and he said, yeah, what do you want? I said, I want to have a meeting. Oh, okay. And he was in Copenhagen, I was in another town. I said, yeah, I want to meet in this hotel you wanted us to meet last time. He said, are you sure? I said, yes. We are there in 2 hours, he said. We'll be there in 2 hours. So they have booked the King Suite in Radisson Hotel in this Aarhus. And it was just crazy because he had another friend with him, another colleague, Buddha Light. And he was an amazing guy too. He was like trying to flatter me, because he didn't know why I was sitting there for. You know, why did I come to suddenly on voluntary basis to see them? And he represented a menu card for me, Buddha Light, and say, Murat, there is no halal food, but there are fish and there is some vegetarian food. Would you like to have that? I said, no. I said, I want something with beer, with bacon and pig and pork in it, and I want a beer. I said, I'm not a Muslim anymore. I came here to fight Islam and to fight this terrorism. And they were like, what? I said, yeah. I said, yeah. And then we, we saluted and we were like, we hugged each other. It was crazy.
Well, so the PET is not a very large intelligence agency. I mean, the Danes, they punch above their weight. They do a great job with the size they are. The PET realized, particularly since you knew some of these key terrorists around the world, that they needed a little bit of help. And that help came from our British friends. And this is the very famous, and depending on who you are, either beautiful or absolutely disgustingly ugly building from MI6, right on the Thames River in London. And the British, to their credit, also in many cases understood that this is bigger perhaps than they could handle. And a third organization got involved, and that, of course, is the CIA. I want you to talk a little bit about your initial meeting with the CIA, because as you'll see the slides about to pop up, there's really interesting backstory that I always found really almost eerie about your first contact with this woman on the screen from CIA.
Yeah. So Amanda and Joshua was the first Americans I met with in Copenhagen. I met with them a few times, but her and Joshua, they were two young. She was young, rest in peace. And in the beginning, because I was a little bit hesitated a little bit to meet the Americans, because I still had a little bit in my heart from the Americans because of the Iraqi war, but I later on I understood, I am in everyone else's shoes because I am a target for terrorists too, because I am not a Muslim anymore. So I thought, well, it's only justified that I work with the CIA and I help to save people. So Amanda and Joshua were sent to me, and very, very kind, and my first meeting with them was really it was really an opening for me to say I like the CIA, I like the Americans. And so a few weeks, not a few weeks, I don't remember the time period before this. I also met her in Amsterdam, but the last time I met them was in Amsterdam, and apparently after that she was killed in Kabul, in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so she was one of the casualties at CIA in the coast bombing in Afghanistan, which was the triple agent operation with the Jordanian doctor as we were trying to hunt down bin Laden. She is, one of the casualties from that. And you just, it's really kind of these paths cross in just really interesting ways. Let me talk about your. Sorry, go ahead.
She's a really brave warrior. I wish, we have many. She got more balls than most of the men I know.
Yeah.
And let me say this as well. Our last mission that I did for the CIA and for the Danes and British intelligence, well, for the CIA and actually the Danes, I called it. I dedicated it to Amanda. I called it Operation Amanda. So yeah, so that was like a revenge. But unfortunately, I think we're gonna go to that later.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your tradecraft, because you couldn't just go in and out of these areas in the Middle East and in North Africa without having a good reason for it, without having you were getting paid from intelligence agencies, but you couldn't tell al-Qaeda that you're getting paid by intelligence agencies. So one of the big ones you did, No, go ahead, please.
Do you want to show the pictures first, and maybe I can? I don't know. It's up to you how you want to do it. As you know, being a spy is very dangerous. Most of the time, you will get killed if you do one mistake, and it has severe consequences if you get exposed. So the problem I had was that I wasn't a rich person, so I couldn't come with a story that I made loads of money because of my rich family or something like that. That was impossible. So I had to improvise. First, I had to do a taxi. I took taxi license to become a taxi driver from the Pakistani companies, as you saw there on the picture. I couldn't do this because suddenly I understood. Well, I also have to travel, and the guy who owns the taxi company also don't know how much money I make. So I can't justify my travels on this based upon this. So I thought, well, what else can I do? I'll make a NGO, like I make it where we can collect money and use that as an excuse to travel around. That helped a little bit. But then I say, well, because Anwar al Alawki we talked about before about outdoors, and I talked about many Muslims who love the outdoors. I also like the outdoors. I say, well, why don't I become an outdoor instructor? So I took all the bushcraft courses, I took all canoeing, kayaking courses, and I opened a company called Storm Outdoors and Storm Bushcraft. And as you can see in the picture, I have taken every course, I've done everything accordingly to like what a normal person should do, but at the same time, I've been a father, I've been a husband, I have been a Muslim, I have been a non-Muslim, I have been a businessman. So I have to have all these kind of crazy personalities in one person, in one day.
Well, and it just shows that you had this as a cover, but you could actually do it, right? It was a real business that you were able to use as a cover to be able to move in and out and to justify the money that you had.
I actually went on a course, and this is, this is not, I can say that it's nothing to do with him, but I went on a 2 weeks course with Ray Mears, this British bushcraft, a famous guy, celebrity in the Arctic Circle. So I did all this just to get the skills and become good at it. And I went to Africa, I went to Somalia, to Kenya. I signed 2 safari camps, and I was going to have them. We were going to do a proper outdoor competition in Kenya as well, so we could facilitate in the name of intelligence, of course. Yeah.
So let's kick the story up a little bit, because I want to leave space for questions, because you and I could talk for hours, but we want to make sure we have questions. So let's talk about why Anwar al Alawki became so dangerous. And bin Laden at this point had been killed. And really at that point, Anwar al Alawki was the most wanted man in the world. And a lot of it had to do with what you're seeing on the screen right now, which is Inspire magazine, which is the English language al-Qaeda recruitment magazine. And if you don't know anything about Inspire, you might be, look, I'm going to open to where there's a very famous article that popped up in Inspire that, like you mentioned, you talk about the Boston Marathon bombers, where the Tsarnaev brothers learned how to make that pressure cooker bomb from Inspire magazine. So at what point did you see Awlaki the way CIA saw Awlaki, as being someone that had to be dealt with?
So basically, I was the one who told CIA that this guy is going to be dangerous. You're not interested in him in 2007. You're not interested in Anwar that much. He wasn't that dangerous. So I thought, no, he is going to be dangerous. You really have to focus on this guy. And but when I knew, because I always hoped that I somehow could get him arrested, and it's better to get information out of him than just to throw shoot a hellfire missile and kill him. Information is better. For me, I prevent killing people, but also we can help saving other people by this information we get from him. But that was not possible. And what Awlaki, through this magazine Inspire, he inspired, as it's called, inspired people around the world to commit terrorist attacks, like Nidal Hassan and what is his name, the underwear bomber here. I forgot his name. Yeah. So yeah, you're flipping through the pictures. My head is.
I'm going through fast because we want to get to the end here.
So and a lot of So the time when I knew that he's had to go was when it was confirmed that he was going to make these small bombs in ventilation systems and going to kill civilians with this racing. It's called racing poison. Very dangerous poison that people would inhale, and they could kill thousands of people. So I said, well, he had to get killed. There was no way out.
So the email that I have up here gives a little bit of insight into how we eventually run into Awlaki, and it talks about a communication system that you guys developed. Awlaki had gone into hiding, and he was counting on you to provide essentially communications from the outside world through a courier. And you can see this is where talking about a flash drive inside this. So can you lead us up? You know where I'm going with this. Can you lead us up to the moment at which the flash drive plot was hatched by you and told the CIA?
So I said, well, we used to use the flash sticks to communicate. There was a system called a crypted system called Asrar al-Mujahideen, or the secret Mujahideen secret. And that would be as a normal encrypted system. The receiver, only the receiver, and and the sender can communicate with each other. But fortunately for us, I was on the good side, so we could always read the same message that was sent and received. And this was to give all instructions to people around the world how to commit terrorist attacks and all that. And it was used. I don't know if they have something new now, but it was very problematic at that time. So I set Anwar up. At the time, the CIA tried to track him down. After I sent Amina over to him, he disappeared from the radar. 6 months, the CIA couldn't find him, and I was busy with my project in Africa, where I had al-Shabaab over there, but also with my outdoors, with the with the safari camps and all this. And then the CIA suddenly, I had a call from Denmark and say, Morten, Big Brother, they need to speak to you in Denmark. They need your help. Can you come? So of course. So I returned back to Denmark and I spoke with my colleagues from the CIA, and this asked me to help them, and I did. I went to Yemen. I set up the whole system with, I managed to get in touch with Anwar al Alawki within a month, and it took CIA 6 months, and took me 1 month to find him and to have this communication between us. So anyway, so the final one, before he got killed, I set him up with a courier who got my flash stick, and that flash stick obviously was there was something in it, and that helped, and also with that courier who was going to give him the flash stick was captured by the CIA, and he helped them in the end to find Anwar. So it was my setup, and obviously I did everything I should do, and this guy, the CIA, just kicked the ball into the goal without a goalkeeper.
Yeah, and then as you talked about, the basically a GPS system, a tracking device within the flash drive, was used to conduct a drone strike against Anwar al Alawki. This is the remnants of that. And the world kind of, celebrated. I mean, this was not the bin Laden moment, but for the people who understood terrorism, this is a huge moment, getting rid of Anwar al Alawki, mainly because you're in a situation where, this guy is reaching out to Americans and Westerners and talking to people who speak English, and now he's dead. But unfortunately, the CIA did not give you the credit for the kill.
Yeah. So here it was. What was crazy was because during my meetings with the CIA, that period where they called me back from Africa, I was promised the negotiation always happened between the Danish intelligence and the CIA. So the Danish intelligence told me, well, Morten, if you're gonna help the CIA with this one here, they have promised us you $5 million. Say okay. I helped them to track down Saleh Nabhan, in Somalia. I never asked about money for that. He was worth $5 million. But this time I said, well, I can use it for the safari camps, and we could build another better cover, and we can continue.
You don't have to justify it. No one's going to turn down $5 million.
Yeah, 5 minutes is good. So anyway, what I was going to say is. So the CIA said, oh, well, when he was killed, my Danish colleagues, they sent me a message saying, Klang, he sent me a message, oh, have you read the news? I was in Wales. I said, no. He said, Anwar is dead. I said, okay. So I read the news and I said, is it true? Yeah. And then said, was it us? He said, no. I said, okay, fine, no problem. So it wasn't mine. It's not a big deal. But it's good that he's dead, and hopefully people are safe. And somehow I was happy it wasn't me as well, because I knew him. It was a bit difficult as well to deal with this. But then I read on Sunday Telegraph, I think it's called, how the CIA finally tracked down Anwar al Alawki. I don't even remember the headline. And I read the article, and I say, what the hell? It was one from the American embassy in Yemen, who actually mentioned the whole mission, and that was me. It was my mission. it was describing details how they tracked him down, and that was all my work. And Obama went out to the news and said, "This is the most successful drone strike ever against al-Qaeda, even more successful. It was the most successful." And so people were taking the honor here and there, and I was like being stepped on. I was like, so in the end, they wanted me to have a meeting with the CIA. I was really angry about it, and even the Danes said, "Yeah, this is definitely yours because we can read it." So when I went to Denmark, I met with this new guy called Michael. He was the new guy at the CIA. My old colleagues for the CIA were swapped out with this new guy. He was a former SEAL, actually a good patriot as well, a good man. But anyway, so he was just a messenger from the head of the CIA, and he said, Morten, there's many people in this government who know who you are. And he even mentioned even President Obama know who you are. We are thankful. It's a recording. I cannot say it in word, but you can all see it. And you played the highest role in all this, but you just didn't kick the ball in. I was like, okay, I did all the groundwork. I've done. Without me, you wouldn't have done it. So anyway, so that was where my trust with the CIA broke, and it all went down. Yeah, it was really sad.
So you actually recorded the conversation. They didn't know you were recording the conversation.
I recorded the conversation, and sorry because for me, I believe that everyone maybe know my story, so that's why I'm not mentioning so many details, but
yeah.
There's recordings on CNN, there's on CBS 60 Minutes, and there's here.
And I put the transcript up so people can actually see it out. Yeah, I have no problem with that. So yeah, you even said like, it was be on the field of the World Cup and someone else kicked it in, and that's what happened. But of course, there was no acknowledgement of your role at all, and I think that's problematic because, as the next photo will show, al-Qaeda certainly thinks you had a lot to do with the killing Anwar al Alawki. Talk about how they reacted to this.
So al-Qaeda's wing in Syria called al-Nusra Front, they thought that they want to display my picture amongst 5 other Danes, and the 2 of them are the ones who drove Prophet Muhammad, the cartoonists, and the other ones are former Prime Minister, and another one is a Muslim apostate as well, Ahmed Akai. And then there is who is it? A Danish politician called Nasser Khader. He's actually a friend of mine. Now, I actually made a fatwa against him when I used to be Muslim, but now we're friends. So I told him sorry on national TV. I was really, really sorry for what I have done to his life. So anyway. So as you see on the picture here, these people they knew that I was responsible for the death of Anwar. There was nobody else who was that close to him than me, and they put my pictures up amongst the 5 others, and they made a fatwa by killing or by shooting, target shooting on our pictures, and basically saying that I am the enemy of Islam, and I have to get killed wherever. So. People have tried to kill me. People have threatened me. People want to kill me, and I am the only one out of the people on the picture who doesn't get protection. The government actually told me just to leave Denmark with my kids when there was a failed attack on me in 2016. So yeah, so this is what I have to live with from now on.
Right, and then that's still current, right? That's still something that is. There's a reason that you're not announcing where you are right now. There's a reason that you don't go out in public a lot and tell people are, because there is a current active fatwa out against your life.
That is true. Yeah.
So you talked about some of these.
You know what? At least it's from the bad people. At least bad people hate me. So that's good. I mean, you like me, and I like that you like me. But I also like that you hate me.
Well, we're happy you're still here. I mean, one day we'll have you come back and tell the story about 2016, because it's a pretty wonderful story if you want to have a good laugh. But for now, we want to slow down so we can actually have time for questions, because I'm sure there's a million questions out there from our audience.
There are, and I'm glad I know Morten, or I'd feel awkward asking some of them. you'll enjoy reading the transcript. There's a lot of like, cheers, Uncle Morten, and all sorts of lovely things. Your old pal, Mark Stout, our former historian, wanted to know, did you learn Arabic? And I wanted to know how many other languages did you learn?
I mean, I speak Danish. I'm a native Danish speaker. So English is my second language and Arabic the third. And as normally Danish Scandinavians do, we understand Swedish and also Norwegian. And I understand some German. I did study German, and when I was 18 years old, I used to smuggle cigarettes. Yeah, I was really naughty. And so I did that from Germany to Denmark. So that was the way I improved my German. So yeah.
So I don't know if you guys can answer this, but one of our dear devoted members, Lynn, wanted to know, where did you guys meet? That lovely photo of you two, because we know Morten can't come to the States. You know,
we can't give you exact locations. But if you've been to the International Spy Museum, the new one, you'll see that the Morten Storm exhibit has Morten telling his own story in it. And so it was a little bit like a special operation where we kind of met at an undisclosed location and were swept off to a studio somewhere where we recorded Morten telling his own story. And the great part of it, we had talked online and on the phone and on video chat for years before that. We actually had met each other in person. We'd spent a lot of time trying to get him to come over to the United States, and that's a whole nother story. But yeah, no, I mean, Morten has been someone that predates me at the Spy Museum, actually. Mark Stout got the ball rolling. And the minute I walked in the door, Mark was like, hey, there's this redheaded Viking ex-terrorist. I'm like, wait, well, there's a what, the who? That you're going to now be the point of contact for. And then the Morten Vince relationship budded from that. But so it's been now 6+ years. And then we've had a chance to spend a lot of time with each other, which is awesome.
I mean, some of the biggest achievement in my life after my children is my exhibition and knowing you guys from the Spy Museum, you, Vincent, and Mark as well. I mean, I've been talking to you guys when I've been really depressed. I can call you guys. It's been not only a support because of the exhibition, but also morally and privately. And I have had a lot of bad experience, but I also had a lot of good experience. And I met brilliant people in doing this roller coaster here.
Well, it's got to be a lonely life. I mean, you have your friends and you have your family, but it's not like you're in a position like the rest of. I mean, you kind of have living the kind of the quarantine experience that we have for the past 10 years. But yeah, we're always happy to be here to have conversations. And one day we're going to get you over here.
Well, this is going to be out of order, but it kind of ties in with that, out of order of the questions. But people want to know, how do you feel safe now, and why don't you change your appearance to feel safer? Like, you could tend to be Vince. You could, shave your beard.
It's true, I could, but I'm reaching this point or in life where I say I'd rather die standing than living on my knees. So I didn't fight terrorism to become a coward. If I did get the opportunity, I will definitely again join something to fight terrorism. And I feel it's my obligation as a human being. I will definitely not die as a coward.
There's something profound that you say in the film Inside the Museum, is that you knew what you were getting into when you signed up for this. Like, you understood that this was going to change your life, and you made that decision to still do it. And I think that's what we all respect about you, is that you knew that leaving the guys behind that you were, like Anwar al Alawki and others, that you were not just going to be able to walk away, particularly when you called the CIA up on the phone. So
yeah, and one of our guests wants to know, how did you keep that trust? How did you keep Awlaki's trust?
Well, it was easier for me to remain as a Muslim in my appearance and in my action, but not in my heart. It was more difficult for me to find myself again. So you have to understand that I was a Muslim for 10 years. So suddenly who was I? Was I the taxi driver, the lorry driver? Was I the bootstrap man? Who was the father? Who was I? Was it the agent or the who? So for me, it was more difficult to find myself, and still I'm trying to find this peace within myself, but much easier to remain as a Muslim in my character.
Awesome. People also really want to know, what you've had so many turning points in your life, so many pivotal moments. What's next?
What is next?
Yeah.
And, I wish I knew. I wish I knew, because there is nothing that is stable in my life. As Vince have just mentioned, I don't have the same freedom with other people. I do have to think, even dating, I am single. So,
Wait,
if
is
my
this
wife
now a dating show?
so if I mean, even women are some women are really scared to know me, because there is a potential danger out there, and I also have to think about them. So I don't have to be selfish. So I have to explain to people that if we are going to know, you have to know that could be the situation, and there is a threat out there. It's not just normal. So yeah. So yeah. Oh, sorry. My friend, he reminds me, and even my kids. I can't even. I'm not even seeing my kids as other people do. I haven't seen my daughters for 4 years, two of them, and the other one, the son, he's turning 18 in next week. But it's like, it's very hard for me to be a real father, having lived this life and being in this situation. I'm very sad, and I'm very sorry for being so neglectful. Yeah.
So Morten, I'm going to put you on the spot, but you can pretend that I didn't ask the question. But boy, this certainly sounds like something a movie should be made out of, right? I mean, like, what is there any movement on that you can talk about, or you can say no?
If I tell you, I will have to buy a beer.
Yes.
I can't say anything, so I'm not allowed.
That's understandable. That's understandable.
But let's just say that hopefully there's a very exciting future.
Cool. That's great. Okay, you guys are speeding ahead of me. Oh, okay. This was an interesting question, and I think this is people maybe just need a little more explanation. This is when you're running Bush Tradecraft, and they are like, well, you're already known to the terrorists, so how did you get around that? I don't think they understood that you continued to be known to the terrorists, but now you have this job. Can you?
As I said before, for me, I just continued being that character that I used to be, but I wasn't that character in my heart. I was a free human being. I was peace-loving. I'm a pacifist, so I did this to create peace. So for me, I was just this hippie trying to pretend being a Muslim, but staying my character to create some, peace.
Well, I think even terrorists had day jobs, right? I mean, some of them had to raise money for,
Most of the guys from al-Muhajirun, the British guys that I knew, was all on the door, because paying tax was haram. You cannot pay tax to the disbelievers. In fact, you have to get the benefits, social benefits, because that's jizya. It's like taking the tax from the disbelievers and strengthen the Muslims and weakening the enemies. So that was the way that they used to think. These people, they are still thinking like this.
All right, we have some very specific questions. What is the tattoo on your hand, and will you show us the Thor tattoo?
Yeah. So I make this. Oh, that way.
Yeah, that's good.
I made this Thor's hammer on my second last mission when I went back to Yemen after the killing of Anwar al Alawki. I was going to meet Nasser Waheshi, the deputy manager of al-Qaeda in all the Middle East, and I thought this was going to be my death, but I said I'm going to do it anyway. So I said better die standing than crawling on my knees. So I said, well, if I am going to die, let me at least take something with me from my culture. So I made this tattoo of Thor's hammer. I'm a Danish Scandinavian Viking, so this is my cultural inheritance. And this tattoo here is Valknut. It's called. It's the slain warriors of Odin.
We got Why Do You Love Metallica?
Oh,
Why would you not, right?
Why
Come
would
on,
you not like Metallica?
right? Yeah.
Come on. No, so first of all, man, I grew up with Metallica as a kid. It was some of the Masters of Puppets was one of the first albums I had. I used to have the posters all over my room, and I was worshiping. Besides worshiping Bruce Lee, I was worshiping Metallica, and and also don't forget that Metallica got the best drummer in the world, and he's Danish, and his name is Lars Ulrich.
Yeah. So just a little inside baseball is when Morten in his exhibit inside the museum, in between when he comes and sits down on the chair and is listening to music, number one, it's this phone.
Yeah, it's that phone, yeah.
And it's Master of Puppets.
Master of Puppets.
Master of Puppets. So this from Metallica.
I remember one time I picked up my kids from Birmingham and from school. It was on a Friday, and I lived in Wales. And on my way back from the school to my house, my son looked at me, and I was just a little kid. He said, "Daddy, do you know what time it is?" I said, "Yeah, it's about 4:30 or something." He said, "No, it's time for Metallica." and I was crying. We put on the Master of Puppets, and I was crying. I couldn't stop the tears. I knew my son had the right understanding of music.
That's my boy, yes.
I've got one. I want to finish out with a super meaty question. Someone wants to know the people that you were interacting with, was their goal to eradicate Christianity, capitalism, imperialism, or were they anti the United States? It's an interesting question.
It starts, for those who are not that practicing and not that knowledgeable, it start with being anti-American. It starts like this, and then it increases to become, because the more you get to know the knowledge, or the scriptures and all that, then you become more anti-non-Muslims. So it's not only Christianity, but it's eradicating everything.
And the trick is that Morten worked with so many different groups, worked against so many different groups like Al-Shabaab and Boko Haram, and of course Al-Qaeda. They actually all have different motivations. Some cases it's
different motivations too, but they have something in common though. That was killing the non-Muslims.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a mom and I have a difficult kid. And your mom has written in and she said, "I am his mother. My name is Elizabeth. Ask him when he's going to visit me."
Well, only if you make a nice cake for me.
Sure. And that's what my kid would say. My goodness. Well, we could go on forever, but I see that our happy hour is at an end. This is so incredible. People were so enthusiastic. Thank you so much, Vince, for leading this.
Thank you. I hope I can be back again sometime, and I want to thank everyone around the world who listened to this. I am very honored. I'm very honored that you spend your time on me. Thank you so much. And Morten, do the opposite of me, and you'll be fine.
No, and Morten, we thank you for staying up late. It's very late on Mars right now, so you're way past your bedtime where you're hiding out. So.
Vince, you said where he is.
Oh, sorry.
My kids, that I love them.
Good man.
Kids, far han elsker jer. Okay, love you all.